Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
When parents make comments about their children's weight, that actually reduces the likelihood that the child will exercise, and it increases the likelihood that that child is going to overeat, especially around unhealthy foods.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Hello, I'm Justin.
And I'm Kylie.
You weren't expecting that.
I was not.
We are the Coulsons. We're behind happyfamilies.com.au, and we do everything we can to help make your family happier. I've written a bunch of books about how to do that. And Kylie, mum to our 6 daughters. You can ask your questions, and once a week we do our best to be as helpful as possible in responding to them. You send the emails to podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. That's podcasts with an S. Podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. Michelle sent us an email and asked for some help, and we're going to do our best with a very serious conversation today.
Michelle's got a question about body image. She says, my daughter is 8 years old and she said she's fat a number of times and has been very self-conscious about herself and bathers over the past summer. I have no idea where it has come from, as I am very careful and do not talk about my and other people's weight or looks. Not that it matters, but she is not overweight at all, nor is anyone in our family. I've read things about body image in kids before, but I would love a refresher and something from your point of view.
Okay, so I'm sure you've got plenty to say about it because you're a mum and we've got 6 daughters. I've got heaps to say on this because I researched it intently when I wrote Misconnection. But before we do that, I just want to make a short note for any parents that are listening to this. When we're talking about body image issues, and particularly the heavier things around anorexia, bulimia, body dysmorphia, and other eating disorders, that's well beyond the scope of this conversation. There are loads of excellent resources that are available if you fear that you need them, but I would say get professional help. It's also worth highlighting that body image issues can lead to anorexia and other issues. Anorexia has the highest mortality rate of any disorder in the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, basically the Bible for psychologists. So the consequences can be severe. If you're genuinely worried about body image issues, definitely worth talking to a mental health or a medical professional about it. With that disclaimer, let's talk about it. What are your thoughts when you hear Michelle's question?
Look, I don't think I know a single woman who has not at some point struggled with her own body image. As mums, our bodies are consistently and constantly changing, and some of those changes we welcome and some of them we really struggle with. And as I read Michelle's question, it occurred to me that regardless of how conscious we are of making sure we actually don't, talk about weight or point out other people's features and things like that, our children are being bombarded with this message through media, through the playground, because whether you're being conscious about it, other people aren't. Children are teased in the playground all the time about being fat or chubby, or this is an age-old thing. This is not new.
The concern that I have is that we send a message primarily to girls. It doesn't happen with men or males in any degree of, not even close, not even within the same galaxy as it does for females, that their worth is indexed to the size of their genes, that their worth as a human being comes down to their physical appearance, and it's just so wrong. When I wrote Misconnection, I did a survey, interviewed girls, did focus groups, had conversations with parents, teachers. Of the 367 girls that I surveyed who actually answered the question about what's the hardest thing about being a teenage girl, 251 of them, 68% of them, said body image. So Friends was at the top of the list, and body image, it was in the top 3 for pretty much all of them. This is a massive issue, and as Michelle has said, this starts at the age of, this is an 8-year-old who's saying, I'm fat.
It's devastating. At that stage, that's a huge concern for an 8-year-old.
Yeah, have a listen to this. I'm going to read just about 60 seconds, 80 seconds from my book Misconnection in the chapter that I called Pixel Perfect, because it puts it into perspective just how serious this issue is as a female issue. The desire to be hot is almost entirely women's issue, especially when it comes to taking serious measures to improve one's appearance. Internationally, close to 90% of cosmetic procedures are performed on women. 90%. Pause for a moment and ask yourself who's more likely to experience anorexia or bulimia. your immediate response would be girls and women, and you'd be right to expect that. At least 70% of cases are female. Reading about what the girls I surveyed said about their bodies and hearing how the girls openly spoke to me about body image issues made one point unmistakable. When it comes to how appearance impacts my life, my experience is breathtakingly different to that of a woman's. I want to read the results of a study here. The World Health Organization conducted a survey of more than 200,000 people in 42 countries. In every single country, girls at age 15 were more likely than boys were to report that they were fat. This is despite the fact that the boys were actually more likely to be overweight. In other words, gender predicts who will feel fat better than it predicts who will be fat. More generally, the beauty ideal and the body image issues actually work counter to healthy physical development. As boys enter puberty, their bodies change in ways that align with society's ideal. Their shoulders broaden, they gain muscle mass, they become more ideally manly. Suddenly, boys are winning, and they didn't do anything to find themselves in that position except to stay alive. On the other hand, as girls progress into puberty, their hips widen, they often gain weight around their thighs. It's normal and natural that they do this, but we live in a society that says it's not. Girls, therefore, move away from the ideal as they experience natural development. According to this unfair and unhealthy beauty ideal, healthy girls are losing just by developing naturally.
I know that this is a predominantly female challenge, but I think it's really important to highlight that boys do go through this process as well.
They do, just not nearly to the same extent. Regardless of whether it's a male or a female, though, if we've got a child with a body image concern, which is highly likely if we've got girls, and it is possible and does happen when we've got boys, we need to know how to deal with it. So let's talk about the best way to respond in just a sec.
It's the Happy Families Podcast.
Are screens creating tension at home? Tweens, Teens and Screens is a webinar to guide families to healthy, safe super screen solutions. Buy it today at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. And today we are answering Michelle's question on podcasts at happyfamilies.com.au.
Yeah, the question's about body image. Got an 8-year-old daughter saying that she's fat. Keeps on talking about it. Mum, I'm so fat. I need to lose weight. I'm not happy about my appearance. What do I do?
So what can Michelle do? How can we help?
Well, I think that the first thing that we need to really be aware of is there is now substantial research, and in fact there's been research around for a few years, that highlights that talking about body weight does not help things. I was on the Today Show several years ago, and I won't name the host who asked me the question, but he actually said, if you've got a kid who's fat, surely you need to tell them you're overweight. You need to do something about it. My response was very clear. I won't mention his name, but I said, they already know that they're fat. They don't need to be told. And what the research tells us, in fact, a study from the Journal of Health Psychology just a few years ago showed that when parents make comments about their children's weight, that actually reduces the likelihood that the child will exercise, and it increases the likelihood that that child is going to overeat, especially around unhealthy foods. There is no benefit whatsoever to talking to a child and saying, you need to lose weight, you're overweight, there's a weight issue. Now, it sounds like in Michelle's case, that's not even what's going on. This is a child who is not overweight anyway, but she feels like she is, which goes back to that World Health Organization study that I mentioned. So I reckon there's a handful of things that we can do, and I'm sure that you'll have some ideas as well. I've got 5 ideas that I'm going to share. Number 1, we've got to be an example. We simply have got to stop talking about appearance. Full stop. End of story. You know, when you catch up with a friend, you say, oh, wow, you look great. Oh, wow, you don't look like you've aged at all. Or, gee, you're looking really fit. You're looking really trim. Or maybe we don't say anything when we see them because they're not looking that great. And then we get back into the car and we say to our husband or our partner, oh, my goodness, can you believe how much weight she's put in the last few years? And the kids are sitting in the back seat. They hear that conversation. We can't get together with our girlfriends or our mates and say, oh, gee whiz, I had a bad weekend on the weekend. I ate a bit too much cake. I did a bit too much lazing around and went too hard on the calories. When we have that conversation, we teach our children all the wrong things. So that's the first one. We've got to be an example. Number 2, we've got to forget this concept of media literacy. You know, everyone's saying, oh, you've got to show the kids the photoshopping. You've got to talk to them about the makeup artists and the money and the lighting. And we've got to deconstruct the the imagery that we're seeing. There's no research that actually supports that as a useful idea. In fact, it's an unhealthy idea. Why? Let me ask you, what are you focusing on when you're looking at the image and deconstructing it?
That they've improved it.
Yeah. And when kids look at those images, they know Photoshop's a thing. They know that there's filters. They know how Snapchat and Instagram work. They get it, but that doesn't stop them aspiring for it. They know that it's fake, but they still want to look like that. In other words, when you're saying, here's all the fake stuff, they're saying, yeah, I know it's fake, but
it looks good.
It looks good, and I'm focusing on the appearance. Media literacy stuff doesn't help. It actually undermines the very thing that we're trying to do. The third thing that I would say is we want to talk to our kids not about how they look, but about what their bodies can do.
I love this one.
Focus on function, not form. In fact, I'm doing a presentation today at a school in Brisbane, and while I don't talk to students a lot, I'm going to be talking to students about this particular issue. I'm at a girls' school. It's a really lovely school in the inner suburbs of Brisbane, and we're going to be talking about body image because I'm talking to girls, and the thing that I'm going to be talking to them about specifically is how they can be happy, and we're going to talk about their bodies. I'm going to talk to them about function versus form, and I'm basically going to say, I just want you to put up your hand or keep a tally. We're going to kind of play body bingo. If your body can do this, can your body drive a car? Can your body rock climb? Have you done the Macarena? Can you turn your eyelids inside out? Can you pat a dolphin? Have you made something that you're proud of? Can you raise one eyebrow? Have you rolled down a hill with your body? Have you used your body to run 5Ks? Have you used your body to give a massage? Like, you get the idea. Can you use your body to twitch your nose or swim in the ocean or do a cartwheel or lick your elbow or have a pillow fight or do the splits? And obviously we can't do all of these things. Not everyone can do all this stuff. But when we focus on what our body can do, we forget about what it looks like. Can you push your little sister on a swing? Can you walk the dog with your dad? It's a much more productive conversation to have with our children. Focus on function, not form.
I think it flows in really nicely to this idea of, helping our children to find their strengths and recognize their strengths. And we do those, most of the time our strengths come as a result of the way we use our bodies. And I love when we are able to have conversations with our children about those strengths, about things that their body does that allows them to live fulfilling lives. It's never about how they look.
The next thing that I would say is, as the parent, you have an opportunity to mold and shape the activities that your child's engaged in. And so while I'm not going to suggest that you make sure that they go and start doing park runs on the weekend and get the 5Ks in every Saturday morning, or that you do anything over the top, you do have some say in how they engage, who they engage with, where they engage, and what they do. So I'd be saying reduce screens, because that displaces physical activity. Find opportunities for them to do physical activity with another person, whether it's you or whether it's your partner, whether it's their siblings, whether it's their friends. Get them on the bike and let them ride around the neighbourhood. Like, that just doesn't happen in Australian neighbourhoods anymore. And it should be happening. Yesterday, I sent the kids to the park. I said, guys, just go down to the park. There's a couple of big kids and there's a couple of little kids. You'll be fine. I'll join you in about 20 minutes. I've got a few more jobs to do and then I'll be there. And then you and I walked down to the park and spent a few minutes with them during the afternoon to just have that time with them. Get them using their bodies. They don't have to be involved in formal squad training in the pool, although that's great. They just need to be out and active and off their screens.
One of the things that we noticed a little while ago when we did a move was we'd come from a really active neighbourhood where the kids were out and about every afternoon, and then we came into a neighbourhood where there just was no children out and about in the afternoon. And over a period of time, we recognised that we'd become quite sedentary in the way we were living life. And so we recognised that it was something that we kind of all needed to work on. And so the conversation we had around the dinner table was that we wanted to move our bodies more, that we wanted to, kind of give our bodies movement and be more conscious in the choices we were making to have a healthy body. And so our conversations around the dinner table were, let's have a look at what we're eating, and let's have a look at the kinds of activities that we're doing and how we could use our bodies better.
Yeah, we probably need to have another one of those conversations,
we
just thinking
do.
about it, based on all the cake that we ate over the weekend. The last point that I'll make relates to that. And that is that if we're going to be talking about diet, and I don't recommend it, but if we're going to talk about diet, I would say avoid any diet that's focused on weight reduction. Instead, conversations should be, what can we do to have more food in our diet that makes us feel vital and energized?
I think the only thing I'd add to that is it's just so important that as adults in our little people's lives that we stop talking about what we look like, what others look like, and focus on what our bodies are doing. I mean, it's what you've already said, but just an acknowledgement that as adults, it's so easy for us to fall into the trap of being flabbergasted when we see someone and we haven't seen them for so long and they have put on weight or they've changed. So, the receding hairline or they've gone grey or whatever it is. We are so focused on physical appearance.
Yeah, don't focus on the physical. Don't focus on the superficial. We really hope that this has been a useful conversation for you. You can get more info about everything we've discussed in my book, Misconnection, Why Your Teenage Daughter Hates You, Expects the World and Needs to Talk, in Chapter 4, Pixel Perfect. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media, and we get all of our great ideas and advice from Craig Bruce. He's our executive producer. If you'd like to know more about how you can make your family happier, we've got this really cool Facebook page with about 175,000 people who are part of our community, and we love sharing a load of free stuff there. It's called Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families. If you'd like more in-depth and more personalised ways to make your family happier, you can join the Happy Families membership. All the details are at our website, happyfamilies.com.au.